by writer Chris Skotchdopole to talk Crumb Catcher. With this being your first feature film here, what was this experience like for you, and how has this influenced your approach to filmmaking for future projects?
Oh, I don't know. Basically, I don't know. Ask it again. What is the thing?
It's okay. What like how has this experience, as this being your first full feature film, influence your approach to filmmaking for upcoming projects?
Um, I don't know. I mean, not. I hope it hasn't in some way. I mean, I think that it's important to come at things like you're an amateur
Mhm.
in a lot of ways, because that's how you kind of um do things different. I mean, one thing that I would say is that I over the course of making this, I had found a sort of long that I think will become a long-term collaborator, my producer Chad Harburl. And he's sort of, I'm sort of very always, I don't want people controlling me, and I don't want people telling me what to do. But I think that there's some people who know how to do it right, at least for me. And he ended up sort of, like, him putting the kind of box around me ended up being very helpful. So, and I also found a great collaborator in my DP as well, that I wouldn't want to do another movie without, just because I always felt like when we were working, that I felt like there was a safe space for us, and that was invaluable. And I've just heard, like, people who make movies that they feel like everyone's against them, and to me, I didn't really feel that. Like, I felt like people were telling me realities, but they were ultimately on my side. So I think it's important to have a team that really keeps you honest, um, and and can see what you're trying to do.
Definitely. Well, I thought the movie was great. I actually got to watch it last night before the interview, so I thought it was
Oh, great.
fantastic. The home invasion subgenre of horror, can be the same thing over and over again. Your film was like this fresh take on it, for going the classic killer for like a more awkward, tension-filled nightmare. What was the idea behind making this like kind of more of this dark, tragic comedy and like flipping the genre on its head?
Um, well, I don't the idea of a home invasion movie, kind of, the first time I kind of heard that was after I'd made it. Somebody had said
Hmm.
it to me, and I just had never I hadn't thought of it as that. Um, and and I love funny games and these
Yep.
sorts of movies. So you know, I wasn't I there was no intention to switch switch it up in this way. It just, I always start from character and see where that takes me. And in this case, I knew I wanted it to be sort of a single location movie for the most part. And um and then it just kind of became that,
Yep.
uh as it went on.
What I know you said you start with character first. When you wrote John's character, what were some of your inspirations behind it? Because he did such a great job, and it kind of reminded me of like Jim Carrey meets like Henry Winkler.
Yeah, I mean, I liked that well, one of the main inspirations for him is Ed Wood,
Hmm.
and a sort of um positive person, or like, you know like, always trying to, like, we can find a clean way out of this, like, always just always in service of his mission. But I like this idea of this dreamer coming into their life, and him sort of is like, yes, this is blackmail, but this is an opportunity, like he's, I just think that's kind of an interesting bad guy. Whereas if it was just, we want the money, it would have been kind of, I don't know. I've just seen that, and I'm not the person to write that, like even something I'm working on now, it's like the obvious thing is, they're drug dealers, and you're like, that's so boring. And I'm not the, I'm not going to be the best person to write that. Because it's just not how I think. But yeah, I like this guy idea that this guy didn't really even want money. I mean, I see him as a character who's just like really just wants love. He wants affirmation for his product. If they would have genuinely liked his product, he probably would have left and been like, great. That was,
Yeah.
you know.
It's funny you kind of say all that because in my mind, when I was watching the movie, Leah and Shane have this like rocky relationship from the start. And the film, like I said, kind of felt like a long nightmare. It kind of reminded me of like Twilight Zone. But was John kind of like a devil in a way? Like he was there to kind of like test the relationship and to find out if they were truly in love? Because he kind of just kept reappearing.
I mean, that's what it ultimately became.
Yeah.
That wasn't the purpose of it. I mean, I think when I really found the film, I think over the course of, because I think when you're writing, you're always just like trying to get inside of the idea, and
Hmm.
you spend countless hours like circling around what it is. And I think when I really found what it was is when it was John and his failed relationship and our couple who are kind of at a crossroads of like, are we going to head down into this toxic relationship where we don't speak and we're just sort of antagonistic, or are we going to find each other in a positive way and in love? And this other couple kind of, for me, became like a funhouse mirror version of how bad it can get
Hmm.
in a relationship.
Yeah, I thought everybody did such a good job and all the performances. Like I thought they all worked so well together. So like as a director, what do you do to kind of help them bring their characters to life and bond with each other?
Um, well, we did a lot of rehearsals, and then a lot of it was like I would have them like go on dates together, not not really like as
Hmm.
characters, but like just as people. Like I just really wanted them to be close so that they know they can kind of be raw and exposed. And I think that is always what I'm pushing for. And I'm always like, I remember Ella, who plays Leah, was a little like she couldn't quite understand Leah, and she had a hard time kind of getting into it. And I remember there was this period when we were rehearsing, and would be watching her, and she would do something, and I would go over to her and be like, "Oh, you see what you just did? That's very Leah. So lean into that." And I would just find little like hooks, that I could say, "Look, that's how you and her are the same." And then, once you find those pathways, um, I think that becomes easier. And with Shane, and Rigo, he's not a drinker and he's not this type of character. So, we did sort of little things like I would have him like, you know, pretend to be drunk and just
Yeah.
walk out into Brooklyn until he got lost, and then try to figure out how to get home without his phone, but like having to like, you know, like just little things like this where you're like, I think when you have these experiences, you can tap into them and just remember them like these like little instincts.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't walking home in Brooklyn without a phone, I feel like would be a tough task. So good on him.
Yeah.
John did such a good job with like his presentation and pitch and made you believe that you needed his innovation. You needed the Crumb
Yeah.
Catcher. So with filmmaking, you have to pitch to studios and different people. What is something important you took away from pitching this film, and or an idea that you would want first filmmakers to know?
Um, Basically, I think commitment. Um, in a way, Crumb Catcher kind of is that's like what the movie's about is like being able to commit to someone. But um, I think I think when you're pitching someone, if you're just sort of vaguely like, I think this is a good idea, and like, there's a lot of market for movies like this, and people like this, and this and that, like that never works.
Mhm.
I think you have to be the guy who's like, this is going to revolutionize. People want to uh, believe with you. I mean, everyone who's in the film industry in a certain regard are dreamers, are uh, want to make these impossible things a reality. So I think you as a creator have to be the number one believer
Mhm.
in the product, in the thing that you're making.
Do you still have the Crumb Catcher device, by the way? I love the little brochures that you had, like
I
all made
do.
out
I
for the
love the
movie.
brochures too. That was like such a fun thing to, I think or I know when you're making a film, there's a long period, you have the script the where it is, and you're always making it better. But it's great having this product in the movie, because every time you're waiting for money, you can make it better, and you could fully live in this guy's world a little more. And I have fond memories making that brochure with my friend. I just went up to his place upstate. James Seward is his name, and he designed the Crumb Catcher too. And we sort of just like, we're cackling as we're like uh, designing the pages. They're just amazing.
It's so good. I need one of those Crumb Catchers.
I know. I'm really hoping that, so Arrow is doing our UK Blu-ray. Hopefully they're going to do our US Blu-ray too, but I'm really hoping that we'll have some essays in the booklet, but I hope that I can have all the pages of the brochure in there. That's kind of a little bit of a dream of mine, that it's like part of the Blu-ray.
Please, I need it. I will be
Yeah.
buying that for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's great.
Being in Leah and Shane's shoes, having two guests that just won't leave and, or stop talking. If you're stuck in this type of situation, what are you telling them to try to get out of it, and leave? Are you doing an Irish goodbye? You coming up with some awesome story here? We've all been in this situation before, so I had to ask.
Oh, but what was the question again, Seth?
If you were stuck in the situation that Leah and Shane were in, if you were in their shoes where you have these like two guests who just won't leave or stop talking, how are you going to try to get out of that situation? Because I know we've kind of all been in something similar.
Oh, I don't know. It all depends on the person. But if it's someone like John, I guess you just have to yes them to death, and then get them out the door as best you can. I don't know. I mean, it is a thing of like, when someone's like that, you don't want to be rude.
Yeah.
There is this whole like polite thing that we're so accustomed to. Um, there's that part of, what's that movie, the Fincher movie, the girl with the dragon tattoo, when
Yeah.
he gets caught by the serial killer at the end, and he's like, come in and have a glass of thing, and he's like, why did you come in? You knew. Like, you don't trust your instincts a lot of times when it comes to fear.
Yep.
You're like, you're walking down the street, someone's coming towards you, you don't you feel like they're danger, but maybe you're like, oh no, but that's that. You don't trust yourself. So I don't know if this is answering any questions, but
No, it's fine.
yeah.
It's perfect.
Right.
I know. So this thing premiered at Fantastic Fest last year, and I was super bummed I missed it. And I'm going there next year. Or this next week, I should say. What was this
Right.
experience like for you having a premiere there? And was there anything you took away from that whole experience?
I have to say that I just am a huge lover of Fantastic Fest and their
Yeah,
whole team. I really think that like I'm very disappointed in the festival circuit and sort of the gatekeeping that goes on and the sort of like the types of stories that are allowed in these festivals. And it feels like the programmers in these in these big festivals or these like premier kind of I don't know what the right term is, but it just feels like there's a type of movie that is a festival movie that they program and they don't like things outside the box. They really don't. They only like things outside the box after the director is like a bona fide auteur and then they're looking back at it. And as Crumb Catcher is such a outside the box film, I just like feel at home that with Fantastic that they took me under their wing and I found success through them, and it's kind of uh I think of Lisa Dreyer over there as my real champion
yeah.
and I don't think this movie would have a life as it's had without her.
Lisa's amazing.
Yeah.
I know Staley told me that you're friends with Francis Galuppi, and I met him there last year, and he's one of my good friends now. It's just like such an incredible community there, and
Yeah, I
everyone's
love
so
Francis.
friendly. He's
Yeah.
awesome.
No, it's great. And it's also this like weird thing where, like the Sundance and the South bys and these sorts of things, like, I've spoken with producers that are winners of some of those festivals and they still haven't found distribution,
Yeah.
and it's like, and I feel like in a way, Fantastic Fest is more of a festival where you can like get to work on having a career,
Yeah.
you know?
It seems very welcoming, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And also it's just like the audiences there are incredible and they just like want the movie to be great, and
Hmm.
I mean I haven't been in some of the other ones, so I don't know. Maybe it's great for that, but I really found like there was so much love for filmmaking and for things that they haven't seen before. And I anyway, just couldn't say better things about that festival and about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, last couple of questions here. So, I use movies as a way to connect with people. I think it's just such a great way to like bridge the gap, and you can learn a lot from somebody's recommendations. So, what is one movie that you always recommend to people as a way for them to get to know you better as a person?
Hmm. Um, I don't know. I mean, I love Ed Wood. So that's a great one to recommend. And I don't know. I feel like some kind of like The Tenant is one that I really feel very deeply about. I don't know if that like can connect you with me, but it feels like that's a movie that was really seminal to me. And Chinatown and basically all in Rosemary's Baby, all his stuff is just incredible.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not sure. I feel like I'm gonna have an answer for you in like 30 minutes.
Perfect. You can message me. So, last question here, and is there anything you want the audience to know about this film, and what can we expect from you next?
Um, I feel like I don't really want them to expect anything.
Yep.
I feel like expectations lead to unhappiness.
Hmm.
And I think that's true of films too. And it's one of those things where I feel like marketing is such an essential part of connecting a film to an audience. But a lot of times it's like creating this expectation that the film isn't necessarily set up for, or trying to do, but it's essential.
Yeah.
So there's that whole thing. But I just feel like for me, I just want people to go in and be open-minded as to where the story is pulling them and just feel unexpected and as if you were like, looking, if you were if you were sleeping and you were dreaming and like this thing happened, like what would that experience be like? Yeah. And what
Definitely.
am I doing next? I'm writing another movie, and struggling with it and figuring it out, and it'll eventually be a thing.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for all of your time today. It
No.
was a pleasure speaking with you, and hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon, I should say.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Seth.
Of
And
course.
I'm glad you loved it. Talk to you later.
Definitely.